When a door gets slammed or a talk with your child leaves you feeling totally unsettled, it's completely natural to want to rush in and fix it. But let's be honest, parenting teenagers today is so much harder than it has ever been in the past. But what if the real barrier to reaching your child isn't actually them? What if it's a version of yourself you haven't forgiven yet?
Welcome to the Parenting Heroes Path. I'm Kent and this is Amy. Today we're talking about a counterintuitive shift that changes everything. How burying past parenting regrets feeds a silent narrative of shame that actively drains your patience today. We're going to show you exactly how to untangle that knot, lay down the shame, and find the real transformation your family needs.
I know how dark that place is because I used to live there. I'll never forget watching our 4-year-old granddaughter throw a big fit a little while back. And it instantly triggered a painful flashback for me to how I handled our own son at that age. And if I'm being real with you, I wasn't a very good parent in that season. I didn't let him feel. I wasn't empathetic, I wasn't patient, and I can still see the crushed look on his face as I yelled at him, told him to be quiet, told him to calm down. I carried that heavy regret and shame with me all the way until he was a teenager, and it actually made things worse. Every time he struggled, my brain would trigger that past failure, that this weight that I was carrying, and I would react out of fear and defensiveness instead of love. And I was letting my buried regrets dictate to really determine what I was going to do as a parent that day. And it was this painful realization but it was painful. But recognizing that memory and realizing what I had actually done, even coming to terms with it and facing it, being real about it, bringing it into the light was the exact moment that my healing began. So I want you to think about the prodigal son story, one of our favorite stories, Luke 15. And we usually talk about the son, but I also want to look at the father for a minute. When that boy came over the horizon, the father didn't stand there wasting time berating himself and saying things like, why did I do this? Why was I this kind of dad? I should have done all these things differently. I should never have let this happen. Now, we don't know. Maybe he actually did, but he processed it enough. He was able to get to a place where he could realize it and then come to terms with it so that by the time his son came back, he didn't let that past mistake paralyze him. He was ready, he was anchored, and he was completely filled with love the moment that restoration was possible. The moment that son came over the hill, I can just see and feel that father like, no, I wasn't perfect. No, I wish I had treated him differently. Maybe he said something rude in parting when his son left, but instead he waits there in anticipation, ready for repair. We want to be that kind of anchor for our child in crisis, their crisis or our crisis. And we've got to stop punishing ourselves for the past.
If you are ready to stop running on the fumes of exhaustion and start leading your home with that kind of unshakable strength, take a quick second to hit the subscribe button. Together, we're learning how to lay down the baggage of shame and become the stable parenting heroes our kids can run to when their own worlds are falling apart.
Yeah. So we just wrapped up a deep dive, 5-day intensive on this exact 3-step process inside our group coaching program, where we walk through these steps with daily accountability and practical tools. But today, right here, we want to give you the high-level map so you can understand exactly how to start shifting from crisis to calm in your own heart and home.
Today, we are breaking down a powerful 3-step path to self-forgiveness. Forgiveness isn't just a nice moral idea. It literally rewires your neural pathways. It restores your parenting confidence, and it clears away the emotional noise so that you can clearly hear God's voice for your family. If you want to change the dynamics in your home this week, the way out of the crisis starts by changing the dynamic inside your own heart. So the first step is to face the raw facts. We're going to contextualize. Before the prodigal son ever made the journey home, Luke 15 says that he came to himself. He stopped living in the illusion of his past choices. He stepped away from the chaotic emotional noise of everything that was there and just looked at the bare facts of his situation.
Yeah. I think a lot of times in our world, it's when things get really hard, we kind of feel like, let's just ignore it. And this first step is so important because we're taking the emotions out of it and we're just going to look at what happened, but in a real way. We're going to be honest about it, honest about what we did, honest about what other people have done in the situation, but we're not brushing it under the rug. We're not ignoring it. We're going to look at it in a real way. And we have to stop letting the adversary spin a heavy narrative that we are bad, that when we make mistakes, we are now labeled bad parents. And step one is about stripping away the illusions and looking at the raw facts, just in an objective way. What were the circumstances? What did you do? What did other people do? Look at the facts, the events clearly without the drama of shame. God doesn't ask us to manage an illusion. He wants us to face reality and separate our actual mistakes from the harsh circumstances that were in our environment and what we didn't know at the time. Be clear about that, or the choices that belong entirely to others.
So step 2 is to process the pain and grief. Forgiveness doesn't mean pretending it didn't hurt or pretending that you didn't make a mistake either. We often read about this in great literature. For example, in Les Mis, one of our favorites, after the bishop tells Jean Valjean's accusers with the silver that he had given him the silver, when in fact he hadn't, right? But he tells the accusers, you can let him go. Yeah. Jean Valjean has this stark moment of clarity where he's now haunted by the magnitude of his errors. So he's facing the facts like we talked about in step 1, and then he grieves the entirety of what those mistakes have cost him. There's no more hiding. He sees things for what they are, and then allows God's mercy to carry him forward.
You want to give yourself internal space to grieve, to actually feel those hard feelings. Ask yourself the hard questions. What did I lose? What do I actively wish I could change? What do I regret? This honest grief is what clears out the old neural pathways to create a true growth space so you can finally move past it, rather than burying it where it keeps leaking out as anger toward your teen today. So for me, that was looking at what was the sorrow? How was I feeling in that moment? How was my son feeling? All those regrets, the sorrow, the wishing that I could change it. So the next step, step 3, is then to actively release it to God. When you think of the woman caught in adultery, one of our favorite stories from John 8, when the accusers left, Jesus asked, "Hath no man condemned thee?" And when she said no, he gave her the ultimate release. "Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more." He completely untethered her future from her past failures.
Self-forgiveness is a conscious choice to stop punishing a past version of yourself for what they didn't know how to handle yet. Hand the broken pieces over to God. Write a lessons learned statement. Intentionally declare that you are handing this pain over to Him and make a decision to leave it at the foot of the cross.
Yeah. The Savior has already paid the price, and he's not asking us to he's not asking us to pay a price. He's not asking us to bear this burden. But I understand it's hard. It's hard to let it go because it hurts so badly and we feel so
Responsible.
sad and responsible. And there's truth in that. We're going to learn from it. By releasing it, it doesn't mean we release the lessons. Just we release the emotions and we allow the Savior to do the healing. Your past mistakes may be part of your story, but when we allow God's grace in, those mistakes can be separate from our identity and removed so that they don't limit our capacity. When you choose to step out of that self-blame spiral and receive Christ's healing, you stop being a parent driven by fear and regret, and you can step into your true identity as a parenting hero, steady, unburdened anchor who can look at a struggling child with genuine empathy and say, I am right here with you, and we're going to make it through this.
If you are in the middle of a family storm right now, you don't have to walk this alone. Join our free Parenting Heroes community at the link below to get support from other parents on this path with you. We'll see you on the next video.